Hi fellow dog fanciers, welcome back to a new video. I am sorry for not posting last week, but I had to focus on my state exam, which I passed with maximum score, and that means I'll be graduating. So I guess my absence was worth it, at least for my personal development goals. If you remember my last video, it was on the pros and cons of taking two puppies at once instead of taking only one, and mainly the cons because there aren't that many pros, especially for unexperienced puppy owners. If you haven't watched that one, I recommend you do so before watching this one because then it will make more sense. As I've mentioned a few times, we have kept and raised three littermates together, not once but twice, and today I will tell you about the highs and lows, the ups and downs, and all the difficulties along the way, for the reason that not everything you see on the internet is flawless, and just because someone has a lot of experience in something doesn't mean that they don't experience any issues along the way. Let's get into the video. Our first part of a trio are Cooper and Brady. They, together with their sister Bailey, who passed away in the matter of a few days due to a cause which is still unknown to any vet, were my keepers from my second litter that was born in June 10 years ago. They were in a litter of 7, and my original plan was to only keep Bailey, and that's because we didn't want to have both boys and girls in the same house. The other 4 boys managed to find great homes in the States, the UK, and Norway. But at some point, Brady started to turn out way too gorgeous to send away, so we decided to keep him. Cooper, on the other hand, was never going to be a show dog, and that's because he lost a part of his tail when he was born, and that was thanks to the error of the negligent vet who was assisting with the whelping of the puppies. So we were looking for the perfect pet home for him, which turned out to be quite a difficult task, and it took longer than expected. And as time went by, my mom and him got too attached to each other, so we decided he is staying as well. With this trio, we didn't have that many complications apart from them being puppies. And as puppies like to do, they were being naughty sometimes, and we were trying to move our plans around so that at all times there was at least one person home to keep an eye on them. We didn't really experience any of the symptoms of the littermate syndrome, and this is due to a few reasons, at least in my opinion. Bailey was the bossy one, and the boys were submissive enough to let her do her thing, so there was never really any conflict. They weren't too attached to each other. There was no aggression, not even between the boys, and not even when they matured. And they were pretty much focused on anything else as much as they were focused on each other. To conclude, apart from them being puppies and getting into some trouble every once in a while before they grow up, we didn't have any issues. Let's talk about our second trio, shall we? The 3-year-old girls, Jamie, Ivy, and Ruby. I've made a whole video on their story and why we decide to keep all of them, so I won't repeat myself. I will either link it somewhere here or in the description below, so you can go and watch it after this one or whenever you want. In terms of socializing, their very first walks and leash training sessions were done separately from each other in the neighborhood, and that's because I wanted them to start building confidence on their own and to learn to pay attention to me. Afterwards, when they became confident enough and they were ready to be introduced to new locations and situations, we started taking them to the park and to other new places together. And I wasn't alone, I was with my mom and my sister, and each one of us was responsible for one puppy. In my previous video, I advised that if you will be taking more than one puppy, you will have to do everything with each one of them separately, including socializing and every part of it. So, why did I not follow my own advice? Let me tell you why. First things first, these are show dogs and they were going to enter the show ring starting from the age of 5 months, every single month. The shows I had planned at the time were around 2-3 hours away and they were held 3 consecutive days. It was going to be too much work to take one, then drive 3 hours back the next day to pick up the second, drive 3 hours back to the show, and then repeat on day three with the third. So I was thinking if they were anyway going to go to shows together, I could have just as well socialized them together and tried to make the best of it. Everything went well. I was very proud to say that I had 3 confident, well socialized, well behaved puppies until when they were around a year old, COVID happened. For a few months, there were no walks, no shows, no going to the park, no walks in the mountain. Nothing was allowed due to lockdown. And at that age, they started to mentally mature. And that's when things started to slowly become a little crazier. Bitches will be bitches, and none of these three is submissive enough when it comes to each other. And this sometimes created tension and even conflicts. To this day, even though, spoiler alert, things have gotten so much better, they happen to want the same thing always. It can be attention from a specific human, it can be toys, treats, foods, a particular piece of furniture, and they work very hard to get it. And trust me, they receive the same of everything. But it seems like whatever is not theirs is way more interesting, even if they're holding the exact same thing in this right moment in their mouth. Their games are usually loud, they start out peaceful and quiet and calm, but most of the time they grow into an annoying mess. Luckily, they've learned some for 3 years, and now at least one of them knows to give up soon enough to avoid conflict. Lately, whenever we go out, we do so with only one of them at a time, or one of them plus an adult whippet, and they're not at all overly attached to each other. Actually, they behave so much better on their own. It's a bit like they're suppressing each other sometimes. So when they are without one another, they tend to open up a lot easier and play and have fun more without the others interrupting. Also, needless to say, they love each other very much, of course. I also noticed that it took them longer to grow up and leave the puppy stage, and I'm sure that if they were raised on their own or with adult whippets only, they would have matured way faster. Basically, that's it. It's not flawless, but it's not that bad either. But let's also not forget that they grew up in a pack of 8 whippets and they also had the chance to pick up some good behaviors from older, wiser whippets. I have no regrets for keeping all 3 of them. I would do it again if I have to, but I will definitely change some parts in raising them because I am aware that I've made some mistakes. I am not afraid to admit that and I learn from them. But anyway, for the 10th time, guys, if you're not experienced enough, just take one puppy. It doesn't matter if it's a whippet, a different breed, or rescue puppies that don't even have a breed. If you could make a choice, then just take one. So that was it for today's video. Let me know if you have any questions. As always, have a lovely weekend and I will see you next week with a new video. Bye bye!